Did you record last week with him, Ben?
Yes. You didn't hear the drama and
No, Ben
everything.
was on 2 weeks ago.
Oh, that
Yeah,
was two
last
weeks
week
ago.
was Kobe, but yeah, 2 weeks ago was the Ben and Chris show that stirred up quite a controversy.
Man, I went 2 weeks without being on the show, almost four.
Hello, my friends.
Thank you for joining us for the PEBCAK Podcast, a weekly information security show featuring some all-around good people. It is week 23 of 2025. I'm Chris Louie, and I survived this year's dance season. With me, I have the Cloud God, who's trying to stay cool in that desert heat.
What are you talking about? I'm freezing. It's like 99 degrees out. Actually, it really is 99. I just looked it up. Yeah, this is nothing. It's sweater weather right now.
It is
Sweater weather.
57 degrees right now in Northern California.
That's cold, brother. That is cold. Until when
President
does it get hot there?
t-shirt.
October?
Ben's in his Hawaiian shirt over there. Yeah, September, October is then when you'll see me in the Hawaiian shirts.
The Tommy
That's
Bahamas?
crazy.
Yeah, I got a few more months.
Okay. That's usually when it cools off over here. That's kind of weird.
Yep. And we do not have Glenn Medina this week. We hope he will return next week. Our guest this week is the returning CISO in residence, Ben Coral. This will be take two of Ben's guest appearance on the show. Welcome back.
Appreciate it. As always, it is a privilege to be here.
So we had you on before you went to Vegas. We had you on after you went to Vegas. So you just took a week off and got to party in Vegas for a week.
Yeah, he did no work in Vegas the whole time. Just party animal. Do
Out
anything
by
bad.
the pool, found him at the blackjack table.
I mean, as you walk out of the airport down in the baggage check in Vegas, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, or what happens in Vegas only happens in Vegas. We don't talk about Vegas, Brian.
I don't know why you're saying that to me. Yeah. I'm not the one that's out to the bar until 2 o'clock in the morning, buddy.
It's called work.
What have you heard? Yeah, that
That
is work.
I heard nothing. There was what happens in Vegas stays in the Vegas bar.
Thank you. Exactly.
Combined, we have decades of information security experience here, not just to educate, but to entertain. We've got 4 awesome stories for this week, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. This week, we're going to talk about a DIA double agent. Australia requires ransomware reporting. For our third topic, an update to the Coinbase insider threat story, and close with cyber readiness talk. For our first topic, a civilian IT specialist at the Defense Intelligence Agency, the DIA, was arrested for allegedly trying to hand over classified information to a foreign government agent.
Funny,
Ethan-
because that's direct internet access too. That's what he was doing. He was giving it up.
Direct internet access for the Defense Intelligence Agency. Exactly.
Double
Nathan
entendre right there.
Latch worked with the military agency's insider threat division. There's a little level of irony there that his job was to hunt insider threats, and allegedly reached out to a, quote, friendly government in March offering classified information, explaining that he did not, quote, agree or align with the values of the Trump administration. After communicating with an undercover FBI agent, Latch exfiltrated data from his workspace and transcribed classified information on a notepad at his desk. At a dead drop to hand off the information to his handler, he was arrested by the FBI. Even the best data protection controls are no match for someone writing down information on a notebook using pen and paper.
What a loser, though. Jesus. He still got caught.
He still got caught. You would think as like an insider threat, hunter specialist, he would take better care of things like that, right?
That's the thing, is I'm sure he's seen a lot, understood what to do, how to do it, just didn't understand how to properly vet your
sources,
your handler.
handlers.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I guess you're right, because he succeeded in the first part. He successfully exfiltrated the data, so he must have known, like, what are the internal controls? What are the DLP controls? Do they check my backpack for handwritten notebooks? And then he found a way to write down the data, leave with the data, and then he just got caught when he tried to hand off the data.
That's why I always keep my... Go ahead.
I was going to say, this is a la the Edward Snowden is what immediately came to mind. And, it's time flies because that's been a decade. It's been 12 years since Edward Snowden. But if you think about how that data was exfiltrated, was put onto, medium, electronic.
Yeah, his was a USB drive, wasn't it?
Yes, and some CDs put inside some music cases, things like that. Hey, I can get this out. And that's back in the days where it wasn't uncommon to burn a CD. So seeing any CD that's not a music CD, it's still my music. But yes.
That's why I keep all my DLP in my Zin packs. No one checks that.
Your little USB dongle goes in your tobacco pouches.
Have you guys tried a Zin yet? You get Zin Bros yet?
I have not.
No.
Not
All right. 0 for 3 over here. I'm ready for it.
I know many of my peers that are heavily addicted to those things, though, but I have not partaked in that.
Peers at Zscaler or just peers in general?
Both.
Wow. I didn't know you had friends outside of work. That's
Mostly in sales, ironically, too.
That doesn't surprise me. You're shady. You always have your hand in someone's pocket, so it makes sense.
But no, trying to get Brian back on track here for a moment.
I know, that's always a task.
Mm-hmm.
They're a person whose job it is to be on this program, this insider threat. Now's the one who's committing the crime that he's actually supposed to be there protecting against. There are different types of controls to help manage these. So I'll ask Brian, what are the 3 types of controls we can put in place to help detect or prevent these types of activities?
I have no clue. What would you say?
I even told you there's 3. So no, different types of controls that are out there as practitioners. So you have administrative controls to put in place. And these are going to be, think policy. I can put a piece of paper on the wall that says, security is up to you. Everyone's responsibility is security. So administrative controls. I could put physical controls in place. Doors, locks, cameras. Physical controls there to prevent things. Maybe a camera's not going to prevent it, but if you see that camera there, knowing you're being watched. So those are some of the physical controls, whereas we, the 3 of us, like the technical controls, the firewall rules, if you will.
Ew, what? Don't say firewall in this podcast.
That's a 4-letter word here, Brian.
Policy rules. Is it? Yeah, I didn't say perimeter-based firewalls. It could be a cloud-based firewall. Come on.
There you go.
But no, those technical controls such as endpoint protection controls, AV, EDR, whatever you want to say. But yes, those are the 3 types of controls that generally are going to be in place to detect and or prevent or at least notify on these types of things. And no one alone is going to be able to prevent. In this case, I'm sure they had monitor in place. They probably stopped screenshots. And if you're working in a SCIF, secure compartmentalized information facility, you probably can't even take your phone in to use screenshots. So what do you resort to? Pen and paper. And so successfully exfiltrating that information.
I think you mean scuba.
Scuba.
Not skiff. Come on, man. Get your life together.
Self-contained underwater breathing apparatus.
Oh, maybe he had it right.
Look at you.
How many times do you think, as they were going through this and talking internally, they're like, we had a little fox in the hen house. How many times do you think that phrase got brought up instead of just double agent?
Yeah, there's some of these.
None? All right, screw you guys. Never mind. Shut up.
No. Give me a moment to think and ask a question.
I know. It's more of like this guy was in charge of it, so he's running his own meeting trying to catch himself.
Ooh,
a little bit reminds me
to catch a predator.
To catch a predator. Remember Robert Hansen? He was the FBI agent.
Robert Hansen.
Yeah, that also came to mind, that he was the FBI agent. He was in charge of counterintelligence, of tracking moles in the FBI, and he himself was the mole in the FBI for, I think it was decades. They never caught on to this guy.
Yes. Just how good do you have to be at subterfuge and everything else?
The appearing to do your job without actually doing your job, because that was this guy's entire job, to catch moles, and he was the mole.
Yeah, but it's like, does he like recruit others? How do you throw people off your trail? You got to bring something in and show some sort of evidence as well. And you find mini moles, maybe, but you're still the overall one. And you collect the data. And if you collect the data from somebody else, ooh, I can make money off this one. So maybe he even benefited off that too.
Makes you wonder if it's like the movies, like with Robert Hansen. Did he uncover an actual mole that was spying for the KGB, and then he turns it over to his handlers and like, hey, that's Sergey, don't rat him out, he works for us. And then they do like the Spider-Man pointing theme. We're like, wait, you're on the payroll. Wait, you're on the payroll.
Yeah.
Time for you to come up with a new
Hopefully
meme. That was a lame one, dude.
What, the Spider-Man pointing one?
Yeah, come up with something better. Were they finger banging each other? I know you're talking about.
Finger guns.
Finger guns. Finger bang bang.
Oh,
On a side note, I'm thinking I'm gonna have to edit this out. I'm like, and I don't know how you prevent like pen and paper. Like you're allowed to, when I
You don't allow pen and paper, idiot.
I know. It's like when I was working in the
stupid.
office, we'd be in a
Jesus.
meeting. It was like a no laptop rule, so we all use pen and paper to take our notes, and we have to transcribe it later. And it's like nobody checked my notebook going out. So, and I don't know how it works in a skiff. I've never been in one. I know there's no electronic devices, no cell phones, but it's like no paper in and out. Like write something down, slip it in your pocket. You can't put someone through a metal detector on that.
yeah. I mean, they do have equipment that's already in the room. You like go inside this man trap, they'll have their little safes or these little lockers that you put all of your personal belongings in that locker, and then they're making sure they watch you put all of your belongings into the locker, and then you walk into the room itself. When you leave the room, you get your locker and you can take all your stuff with you.
Because I've taken,
Hear me out.
like,
Stone tablets. You sit there and chisel away. Undetectable.
What's this guy doing?
Oh, see, but Brian believes it's already chiseled enough that he can write it.
Whatever. One
Like
day,
I've taken proctored exams where you have to empty your pockets. They metal detector wand you, and I mean that's sort of similar, but still, like if I had a piece of paper in my pocket, they wouldn't have been able to tell.
You
I don't
voluntarily go to the proctologist. I don't want to hear it.
Ooh. I've never been wanded to take a proctored exam. That's okay.
Yeah, that was.
Hear me out on this. Certs are for losers, so you guys are dumb for doing that. Congratulations. You're a great test taker, everyone.
Zscaler certified digital.
Oh, those mean something, that's for sure.
Oh, listen.
Those ones are good. Those ones are amazing,
Those ones are
guys.
worth their weight in gold for sure. Well, I guess the other side of it, as part of counter, I don't know much about how intelligence agencies work. All I know is what I see in the movies. But part of counterintelligence is like polygraphing. Like you'll get an occasional polygraph. Is that another kind of control? Like, have you ever stolen classified info? Have you ever done anything to intentionally harm your country? Like, I've seen the movies. I just don't know if that
Yep.
works.
Have
in
you
real
ever
life or not.
sold information for monetary gain? Things like that.
Like, technically, no. This guy just wanted to. I guess his compensations, he was going to leak the classified information to this quote friendly government. And he says, I want citizenship in your country in exchange for this. So I guess he wanted to flee the country.
Yeah. And you talk about ideology, you talk about the reason why. Why would you do that? Because he disagrees with the Trump administration. And it's sit here, and this is short-term thinking, because that's only 4 years. 4 years is going to go by fast, and then you're going to have a new administration in place.
Yeah. Just couldn't take it anymore, apparently. I wanted to renounce his U.S. citizenship and start anew somewhere else.
So I know there's like probably not a billion ways, a lot of different ways to circumvent a polygraph. And I was thinking, someone told me the other day that if you tell a lie enough, that you start to believe it. So could you, in theory, like normally when they hook you up, they ask some questions that they know the answer to. So
Yeah, the
you
control
convince yourself,
questions.
yeah, is your name Brian Joseph Each? You're like, yes, it is, but in your head, you're like, no, it's not really. Like you know what I mean? And just throw the scent off the old radar. Like, you were born in 1984. Like, yep, but like, but internally, like, no, I was born in 1996. Why are you asking such a dumb question? I wonder if you could actually get away with that.
1984. Really? Really?
I was not born in 1984. I'm not telling you how old I am, Ben, or the listeners.
Yeah, well, there's lots of ways to beat the polygraph. Like, that's why
Well,
it's
do you
not
think you could
admissible
do-
in court.
Do you think that would be possible? Is that one of the methods of like just training yourself to circumvent the baseline questions that would just throws the scent off?
Well, that's the thing, is just be calm. And if your heart rate doesn't move, if you were just cool, calm, and collected the whole time, and you're answering everything consistently, following that baseline that you use, or get yourself worked up while you're answering your baseline questions, and all
Just
this,
start
you know,
crying. Yes, it's Brian. Oh my gosh, how did you know? I'm so old. So apparently Ben knows how to fool a poly. All right, let's
Polygraph,
go.
yeah.
neither
There's a
confirm
movie-
nor deny.
This movie I just watched, it's called Black Bag. It was an interesting movie, but there's a whole plot line around people trying to beat polygraphs, and there's, like, I guess there are some techniques, but yeah, again, it's not admissible in court because it's not scientific. Like, it's not foolproof. It is fallible, but it's just what, like Ben said, it's the threat of it. Like, will that make somebody think twice before doing it, knowing that you're going to get polygraphed in 3 months and you're going to be asked these tough questions? Like, is it really worth it to train yourself to beat the polygraph, or just follow the law and you won't have any problems?
How about don't be a jerk? Yeah, that works.
For our second topic, this will be our ransomware story of the week. Australia became the first nation in the world to pass a national law that says a company that pays an extortion ransom to a ransomware group must report it to the government. This is one step behind banning payments altogether, but the banning reporting requirements are meant to gather more data and intelligence to help combat the scourge of ransomware. The law only applies to organizations making more than $2 million a year and those that are in the critical infrastructure industry. And I think they put the number somewhere about 6% of companies in Australia are affected by this. So your mom and pop shop, no. Your small businesses, no. Only the largest organizations or critical infrastructure. Reports will be made to the Australian Signals Directorate, or the ASD, within 72 hours of the payment. Companies that fail to make a report could receive 60 penalty units within the Australian civil penalty system, and I have no idea how this unit or credit system works. That's just what I read. A study believes that only 1 in 5 organizations who pay a ransom actually disclose to law enforcement or the government, and this is meant to increase that amount.
So my first question, when I'm seeing this and hearing this, is about 6% of companies will have to abide by this. Are those the 6%? And if only 1 in 5 reports it, of those 6% covered, are they also the ones to be more likely already reporting it?
Very true. Very true. We don't know what that overlap is, if it is or not. This is sort of public because our company published a study on it. There was I think it was like a Fortune 50 company that paid a $75 million ransom, did not disclose it, but through blockchain analysis, like, they were able to find out this payment was made to, I think it was the Dark Angels group. So just because you're large and in charge doesn't mean you're abiding by all the rules here.
Yep.
You know who wouldn't fall for this? Mick Dundee. He would never fall for that. He would not pay the ransom. That's not a knife. This is a knife.
This is a knife.
That's not a ransom. This is a ransom.
Oh, see, there are many reasons why you're not going to want to pay. And first and foremost is we don't want, as an industry, to continue to encourage this type of behavior.
Reward.
When I talk to reward it, yes, to reward it, encourage, we don't want to perpetuate this type of behavior. And as long as it's successful, criminals can continue to do it. Number 2, this is an unbudgeted expense, and it's going to be 7 figures likely. Who just has 7 figures laying around? So, we don't want to
$1,000?
encourage it. 7 figures, 7 figures.
Are you including the decimal?
Think bigger.
So
That's what
9.
she said.
Yeah. All right, 9 figure. Yeah. Hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars. I mean, yes, it's going to be expensive
Gotta be
to go
painful.
out there.
Yep.
Yep. It's also a pride. If I'm paying this, it means that my program was insufficient. Something bad still happened. So now I have to admit I wasn't prepared. I have to admit that the program I built wasn't sufficient. Public perception, reputation hit, all of those things that are out there. And lastly, because I'm sure there's many other things that are out there as well. But if I pay the ransom, now if we ever do go to arbitration, go to court, legal, if I go to insurance and I tell them I paid, is the insurance company going to say, yeah, now we're not paying as well? Many different things to consider why we may not want to pay that ransom as well.
I'd
What do
want
you
to
think
revisit
about-
number 3, the reputation hit, because just one example, all in the public domain. MGM and Caesars both got hit by the same ransomware group. MGM did not pay. They were down for weeks. Caesars paid. And when you think of casino hacks, everybody thinks of MGM because they were down for weeks. You had to use pen and paper. They were thrown back in the Stone Ages, where Caesars, in my opinion, did the wrong thing. They paid $15 million to these scattered spider kids, and they kept their name out of the news. I think the only reason we found out was because MGM got hit, and then somebody found out Caesars had paid. And, you think of who the other famous people that paid: Colonial Pipeline, JBS Foods. Like, I know this because I work in cyber, but if you ask the random person on the street, would you trust Colonial Pipeline with your data? Like, who?
Yeah.
Globe Public Schools paid. Just kidding. I don't know that.
but that's the thing is, even if you pay, you may not get your data back. If your database was encrypted, it is likely that it's corrupt. So even if you get the key, you may not be able to restore your databases. The key itself may not work. You just paid $5 million or $75 million, and the encryption key doesn't come back. There's a well-known Cyber Reason report out there that up to 80% of organizations will be re-hit within 18 months because they're known to have paid.
Yeah. They know you're, I don't want to say a sucker, but they know that you're willing to cave in.
Yep.
That you're willing to negotiate. And very similar to the U.S.'s stance on terrorism, we do not negotiate with terrorists because that encourages more terrorism.
Yes.
And if you pay a ransom, you're very likely to pay again. I mean, the hope is you've learned something and you've improved your defenses, but that's not always the case.
No. And also, if you engage your law enforcement, your partner, they might have a decryption key for you as well. They've got repositories of decryption keys that might work for you. So rather than pay, inform your partner on law enforcement. You should have those contacts ahead of time before when you're putting your plans together, before things ever happened. So you should be able to call and say, hey, John, it finally happened. This is the screen. This is the threat actor. This is the ransomware as a service group. Do you have a decryption key that works for these? And you may not have to pay. But that's admitting things. And that's a business decision right there. That's not the CISO's job to determine. That is an absolute business decision. CEO, CFO, Chief Executive Financial Officer goes to, maybe even your board of directors will weigh in. Will we disclose?
So you're in the know. You know all the cool people. So let's say one of your friends, their company gets popped like a due date. Do they even get invited, like, to this meeting, or they're just waiting for the phone call of like, hey, did you know you don't work here anymore? Like, what does it look like as the life of a CISO?
The short answer is yes. And what does your program look like? Do you have a major incident response policy? Have you briefed your board? Have you had board level tabletop exercises and having that conversation of, It's a matter of when, not if, we're going to get hit by something at some point. Have you walked them through? Have you prepared them? Have you had these conversations ahead of time? And let them know. But it also comes down to, as you're walking through, you're in the heat of the incident, you're walking through, recovering all of these things. Yeah, I have been told before, you don't have to worry about that. You failed, you're fired. And that was part of walking through the major incident response. But I've also had others walking through saying no plan is perfect. We're going to understand that, and if we've proven that extenuating circumstances, the intern set the password to that default password that's there.
SolarWinds 123.
Then it's not going to be on that CISO, and the CISO can actually survive. And I've seen CISOs survive multiple incidents, major incidents, but not really the level of, say, a ransomware or something like that might have been preventable.
And I think this mandatory reporting requirement, like I said, it's one step away from a full-out ban. And this conversation has been had ever since the dawn of ransomware. Do we ban payments? All of a sudden, we ban payments and ransomware goes away. Like, not really the case, right? You find intermediaries. We've sanctioned groups. We've done everything we can to discourage payments from outright banning. But the flip side of that is, there are multiple organizations, Garmin being one of them, that would not exist if we banned ransom payments, because they said we have no backups. Like, we're sunk. Like, the only way we get out of this is by paying.
Yeah. So a controversial statement. I say enough of them, but you cannot legislate morality.
Oh no.
You cannot. If you ban
Watch
these,
me. Watch me.
Watch you.
Watch the cloud guy do his thing.
Hey, but if you ban this, now they're going to figure out, if you get hit with ransomware, one of the things you can do is you can call your insurance carrier and say, we got hit. A lot of times they have a partnership with a ransomware negotiator, and that ransomware negotiator will do the ransom, and they're a third party for you. So they're a broker for you. You didn't make a direct payment. Is that now illegal? And or
payment on your behalf. Right.
Payment on your behalf.
Yeah.
Or if the U.S. entity got hit, but it affects the entire company, and I have a subsidiary in Australia, good example, can we make the payment through Australia as long as they now follow the 72-hour notification?
Yeah, it's really nuanced there. It's more of we have to have like an international set of norms, and you can't just legislate it at the country level.
No, and that's the problem. As we start talking about some of these data localization laws, and you have to keep your data in said country, well, it's in the cloud. Well, where's the cloud being hosted? Where's all of this doing? Are we actually moving backwards by thinking about, we want to do the right thing for the right reason? What's the intent and the purpose? And one of the things you said, they're trying to get more data here, and they want to, extortion, ransom, all of these things, better mandatory requirement to help combat the scourge of ransomware. Okay, great. Are you, said country, said entity, said everything, how are you protecting me, the privately held company that's operating in 50 different countries? I may be headquartered in your country. Are you going to protect me in all 50 countries? Are you going to protect me in the home country where I'm paying my taxes as well? How are you protecting me? You're hindering me. You're preventing me from staying in business by prohibiting an activity, yes, to a criminal organization, but are you truly overstepping your bounds as a sovereign government entity? I don't have an answer.
That's why we need the New World Order. Just pass laws.
New world
one nation.
Order. Gotta bring back. It was Hollywood Hogan, not
Hollywood. Yeah,
that is right. Hollywood.
Hollywood Hogan. Oh, okay. Let's go. So here's a real question: like, what's China's stance on ransomware and stuff? Other than they're the ones probably perpetrating all of these activities. Like, I feel like they have a lot more money. Like, I'll just go after them instead. Leave us
yes
people in
and
the US
no.
alone.
Like China has a very mature hack. I don't know how you say cyber threat groups, APT groups. They're more in data theft. They're not really in the business of ransomware. Not like Ukraine, Russia, Iran, Syria. Like those.
No, let me
are
shut
more
down all
the-
their factories where they're building stuff. Like, you think I would make a pretty penny doing that?
Yeah, I mean they're more in the IP theft area.
We know
spying,
this, Chris.
espionage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if you think about it, some of these ransomware as a service groups will say things that are out of bounds. You're not allowed to attack a hospital. You're not allowed to attack an organization that is its mission, like a nonprofit that focuses on children, adoptions or orphanages. Those things are supposed to be out of bounds. Supposed to be.
Even criminals have standards.
Yes.
Some of them.
Some of them.
I know.
When
Some
Chris
of the
was in college, he
ransomware.
had zero standards. You should see some of the girls he dated. Hey, guys.
Like some of the ransomware as a service groups, they say if you want to be one of our affiliates, these are the norms. Because if you attack a cis nation, if you attack a Russian company, if you attack a hospital, like you will bring down the full force of law enforcement onto everybody, and everybody's going to have a bad day.
Yeah. And one of the ways of preventing ransomware from installing, the old school way is you install on all of your machines the Russian language
Pack, yeah.
Because if it detects that it's installed, this may be one of our organization sister company. Let's not go ahead and install on this computer.
Yeah, what a time to be alive, where that's the ransomware vaccine is the Russian language pack. For our third topic, the recently disclosed data breach at Coinbase has been linked to India-based customer support representatives from outsourcing firm TaskUs. TaskUs actually caught the employees red-handed back in January when employees at the support organization caught one of their coworkers taking photos of her computer screen using her personal phone. These images were then sent to the threat actors in exchange for bribes. Coinbase has already notified the 70,000 affected customers and compensated those who lost cryptocurrency due to a phishing scam as a result of this data breach. Now, how do we stop this type of insider threat? Like, we're not expected to have customer service people operating a skiff where they leave their phones at the door. Maybe we do. And, no USB drives. They have to go through a metal detector. Like, is that really worth it for, I don't know what the wage is in India for outsourced customer service, but is that worth it?
That's a lot of photos. 70,000 affected employees. I feel like since you did call her out by gender, would just sit there holding her phone up and just taking pictures all day long, just scrolling.
Maybe it's just like a video, and then you have it like scrolling by.
I mean, you just let them know, like when you guys, we'll cut your hand off if you do this. Violence is always
the ISIS
answer.
Caliphate.
Yeah, like I don't recommend violence, but I do think it's highly effective and it works every single time. So maybe that's just part of the new hire agreement.
You only
Little
break the
carrot
law
and stick.
once.
Yes. It only have to be made an example of once as well. All right, fair enough. But how do we stop this sort of insider threat? And I think that takes us back to, number one, having an insider threat detection program. And, hopefully your insider threat analysts are not the ones who are perpetrating this. They're not the ones who are actually doing this. But what type of controls do we have? How do you properly vet your employees? And what company are you going to say cannot be outsourced to? Do you say a country? Do you say a company? How do they vet their employees? And do you allow your third parties to have third parties? What is your process of hiring your employees? And in what countries are they operating in? Are they bribe proof? We all have everybody has a price or proper leverage. You may not have a monetary price, but all of a sudden one of your kids is being held. And you're talking about the wrench being used on someone's kneecap or a ball peen hammer on little toes. It's gruesome. everyone has a price in order to give up information.
So your price is your kids. You're outing yourself right now, dude.
Hey.
And Brian's price is a triple double at Five Guys.
Just ask Brian.
Just ask. I mean, Brian has too many best friends, and if his best friend asks, Brian's going to give up information. But what is that?
Don't friend shame me.
Hey. But who do you give access to? And this is the thing that, as much as I've worked in different lockdown facilities as well, and the thing that I always just had the facepalm moment on is the person with the most amount of access to every room in the building wasn't your CEO, wasn't your facility manager, it was your custodial staff. That person gets access to every secure room, to your telco room. I've seen them having access to your data centers. If your data centers have trash cans in there, that person will badge into every room and will walk straight in. And it's wild the amount of access the custodial staff has. Pay that person $1,500 and say, plug this USB stick into the back of the receptionist computer or into whatever machine is over here running your whatever, if you have knowledge of what some of the insight looks like. $1,500, and all of a sudden you might have remote access to that organization. So it's really hard to have all of these protections, but that last one there of how do we stop this type, taking pictures. In this case, it's the TSA. If you see something, say something.
Yeah, and that's where like your camera controls come in place, that you're monitoring your staff. If you see someone holding up their cell phone to the screen and it looks like they're recording something, like you see something, say something. And that's how this person eventually got caught. The coworkers ratted her out. This also could have been caught through surveillance footage if someone was paying attention to the camera, seeing somebody with the phone in front of the screen or frantically writing something down in a notebook, like looking at the screen, writing down, looking at the screen, writing it down, looking at the screen. Like that's suspicious behavior that they probably should have taken more seriously if they were watching the camera feeds.
Sounds like our weakest link is also our last line of defense, the users.
The users.
Yep. But that's the thing, is that's also your greatest sensor as well. Technology doesn't have intuition. People do. Your technology will miss something, but you walking by, something doesn't feel right. So our best sensors, weakest link or best sensors, because this isn't a technology problem. All of this, they used the camera, they got around. It's not a technology problem. This is a people problem. And it's a carbon-based problem, and I believe that only carbon-based solutions are going to be able to come up with a way. Whether we use any of the 3 different types of controls, I think a carbon-based problem is going to require a carbon-based solution here.
Doesn't charcoal have carbon in it?
I don't know.
Barbecue. The barbecue pit is the one leaking the data.
So you're going to rake them over the coals or make them walk through the coals?
I think it comes down to like the vetting of your people, like you said. And one incredible example I had is I was talking to my buddy who's a sheriff, and we did a ride along, and I would say that he's a pretty outstanding person. And he was just talking about like the process of getting like brought on and going through the academy. He's like, yeah, you're in there, very stressful. They're going through stuff, and they're like, hey, when you go home this weekend, wash your clothes, iron your stuff, and then come back and be prepared to go about your day. So he says everyone shows up, clean, clothes are clean, uniform is pressed, and they're like, hey, did you iron your stuff? Yes, I did. Call your wife. Wife answers the phone. Did you iron your husband's stuff today? Yes, you did. You're out. You lied to us. Like something as trivial as that. I was like, damn, man. Like, so like they you have to be like, man of your word or woman of your word. I was like, damn, that's actually pretty cool. And then going back to the videos, I won't mention what company is, and I think there's enough companies doing this today, and I think they all do it the same. I was talking to them, I was like, yeah, man, I was just at your store the other day, and you got that creepy camera. This is like, recording in progress. And I was like, as I'm checking out the self-checkout, they're like, yeah, that's just a closed loop. It's a live video feed of you. We don't actually save it anywhere, but it's highly effective in preventing, deterring people from doing things.
See, and
cameras everywhere, including the restroom.
And that's it. Wow.
You don't have a toilet cam at your company, Brian?
I was going to go into that whole social engineering, scoping places out, checking things out. And is that a deterrent there, saying it's a closed system, it's only live, they don't record it? Is that a story that they're selling in order to somebody can let their guard down?
I know, it's like an Inception thing, right? It's like, of course it's not recording, and then nope, it actually is recording. Right, in the theme with our stories of today, for our last topic, it'll be a rotating topic every week. This week, we're going to talk about, in general, just cyber readiness. And we've been reading in the news lately about major cyber attacks and how disruptive they can be to many different types of businesses. So, Ben, you've created cyber programs for decades now. And what, in your opinion, what are some ways companies can minimize the disruption during a major cyber incident?
Number one is having a plan. Do you have a plan? And do you have a plan? Have you communicated that plan? And has your team walked through that plan? So these are generally called tabletop exercises. Do you have a plan? Have you tried your plan? The second is, you mentioned earlier, or maybe Brian said earlier, do you have a backup? And where is that backup? And where do you store that backup? They're different. Do you even have one? Where's it stored? How's it accessed? Is it on site? Is it off site? Can you restore it? And is it written to, say, a tape that you can no longer restore? But you feel good because you stored it in like Iron Mountain, but now you pay to have it shipped back overnight. Do you have anything to restore it to? And do you even have processes to restore? Backups. Backups are huge.
And I heard there's been like some companies where it's exactly as you describe it. Like, yeah, we have bulletproof backups. We test the backups. And then here comes the ransomware attack. Like, all right, good. Let's restore from backup. And like, yeah, it's going to take 120 days to restore from backup. Like, just trying to get the data. Like, well, it's going to be cheaper just to pay the ransom. To your point earlier, it's going to be cheaper to pay the ransom, even though we have it. The time to recovery is so long that it makes more sense to pay the ransom than to be down for 120 days.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, what did you back up? Are you restoring systems, or do you just have the data itself? So now you have to build your system, you have to build your database, and once you have all of those things in place, you can restore your data. How long does it take to get there? And in this day and age of virtualization, I would hope we're talking hours, but hours for what? It very well could turn into weeks. Yes.
When you were saying like you're a solid plan, it reminded me of a conversation I had with my son this weekend. He likes this girl. He goes, I had an 8-step plan into getting her to go out with me. And he's like, now it's 6 steps. I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, but I revised it this morning. Do you want to see the new plan? I was like, sure. He hands me his phone. And the notes, all it says is go all in. Just one step.
I love
one step plan now. Yeah.
Exactly. He's learning. He's learning.
See?
Yeah. And then he had a piece of paper where he had, I don't know what's going on with my son. I love him to death, but just a piece of paper on his desk, and I look at it, and he had written like on 1,000 times on a piece of paper, like, I am goated. I'm like, what are you doing?
Self-affirmations, right?
He is his own best hype man, I guess.
Hype man. Love it.
Yeah. So revise your plans, go all in, whatever that is.
Yes.
Go all in.
Done. All in.
Yeah. No half measures.
No. But that's the thing, is having a plan, communicate a plan to the lowest levels and to the highest levels. Brief your board, talk to your board, make sure that you've talked with them about it, make sure that they're funding your program, making sure they're supporting your program. But as Brian talked to about 5-6 minutes ago, of during an incident, how's it going to go? Am I going to get fired? If I've talked to them about it and told them things will go bump on the network, stuff is going to hit the fan at some point. It's inevitable that it's going to happen. We will be out there, but we have a plan. we believe, we've tested, we've done all of this. We have a plan. We have ways of getting back. This is our plan. Talk to them. Have an executive tabletop as well. Bring someone from the outside in. Have them walk through the scenarios. Have them review your processes. Have them recommend and say, wow, you all seem to have things in place. You all seem to have your act together. So it'll be a little feather in your cap. Your board will feel better about you. And if I can only pay for one tabletop, I'm paying for the executive tabletop. Why? Because after that executive tabletop, they will fund your technical tabletop afterwards. If you do the technical one, that's not going to pay for the executive one. But I promise you, very high probability if you pay for the executive one that they'll find the money for the technical one later.
And how often would you say you should practice it? Because there's people always coming on board, people offboarding. You're always going to have personnel changes. Like, what's the recommended frequency of said tabletop exercises?
I don't think there's hard and fast. I think minimum is going to be annually. Have you had major changes? Have you had major people turnover? Have you had executives? Have you brought in new technology and a new incident management system? Do we need to refresh and update our processes? And did anything change our plan enough that we believe we need to go through it again? And maybe we believe the answer is yes. Do we need to have a third party walk us through it? Or do we just do it internally using internal resources as well to familiarize all of ourselves with it as well? So, case by case basis, your mileage may vary, but at least annually.
So what would you recommend for organizations? Like, obviously, any Fortune 500 company, CISO is going to command respect of the board. But like some of these smaller organizations, maybe even in private equity, right? They look at the CISO as like the redheaded stepchild of cyber, right?
You're a cost center.
Yeah, like how do you up-level that conversation? How do you actually show that value and command that attention? Have you had to go through that before?
Well, unfortunately, the short answer is yes. And when you walk in and the feeling for security, number one, you don't have a CISO. You have your director of security. They don't even value security enough to have a C-level title. Number two, they see security as a necessary evil. Now, when you're there, at least you have step one achieved. They're seeing you as a necessary evil. They still see you as necessary. So you at least made step one. But they still see you as a cost center, and they see you as the cost of doing business. And if you look at some of the regulations over in Europe with NIST, NIST2, things like that, you have to have a country-wide computer incident response team or computer security incident response team. Great. So does your organization, does your company have one of those as well? How do we make sure that we have security teams? Were you hired just to say we have one? So you're not empowered, you're not enabled, you are there in name only. That's where some of these executive tabletops come in. This is where you bring it in and say, hey, this industry icon, the CISO, very well respected in our industry, I'd love to bring this CISO in and talk to my board. What board is not going to sit there and say, oh, let's bring in this industry expert for free and get 20 minutes in our board to brief us on it? It's not coming from our person, it's coming from outside. You get somebody who walked through a major incident before. They made the front lines. They made the front page of newspapers. That person's willing to come and give us their experience. Now your board may be like, we very much would like to make sure that we never land in that position, and you offer that person up. I will say our industry is very understanding, and if you engage a person, they'll give that brief, generally for free.
So, do they lead with business impact, or do they try to sell fear, uncertainty, and doubt? Like what's that conversation? Like what resonates the best with the board?
Yeah. FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt is very short-lived. And if you take a business case and your business justification is, if we don't do this, we will get hacked. you may get that one business case approved because you sold it up, with enough fear. But you're not going to get your second one. You're not going to get your third one. So when you're bringing someone in to talk to your board, making sure that they are talking business impact. These are the things we wish we had done. This is the things that we learned along the way. If we had to do it all over again, these are the things we would have put in place beforehand. We would have had insurance. We would have had that ransomware negotiator. We would have had an IR firm on retainer. Therefore, we would have had all the contracts in place. These are the things we wish we would have had beforehand. And now you're bored. Check. Ooh, our security person's done this. I don't know if they've done this. And there are questions that they can ask this person. And then you want to know whatever questions, because you may not be invited to the session. You'll have partnered and you'll have guided and directed, but make sure you have a good enough partnership that questions that were asked of that person come back to you, and that person's going to brief you on their briefing with your board, and this is the impression your board has on you. This is the reputation, or these are the things that they believe about you. You probably need to work with your board to better educate them.
Do you ever look at it through the lens of like, security is the naysayer of all things, and so like how you could maybe introduce new technology? So let's just say Gen AI, right? Like how to safely embrace that as well. Would you ever have that with the board, or is that too technical?
Yeah, generally the board isn't going to get to that level of detail. Not in my experience, but also I haven't gone to the board of director of, say, more technology companies. I've gone up there for manufacturing. I've gone up there for other organizations. And what I have found is most board members are former CEOs and CFOs. They're
not so many CTOs or
no.
CISOs or CIOs.
So it'll be nice as we start seeing more technology land there, people who are more aware, more comfortable talking technology. I think I made a comment once, and VPN's a common term, but I think I threw out something like ZTNA or something. Quit using acronyms. Well, everybody's talking in acronyms, whether it's EBITDA, things like that. So there are acronyms being thrown out there, but no, be very aware and conscious of talking technology. They likely don't want to. Now, I will say, once a year, I did a deep dive on cyber for my board, and that was a 45-minute session that went very deep. But I gave like a 50-page pre-read, so they could read that ahead of time. Even though it's 50 pages, they'll make their way through it. It still needs to be engaging. Still make sure that it tells stories as you're going through there, not just dense of data.
All right, Ben, what's your MDAO and what's the CAC on that?
Enough poems and things like that. No, stop. Yeah. But the other thing is, as you're building your program, I'll wrap this section up from my perspective, making sure that you're updating your systems, knowing the data that you have, what systems, what applications, what's your data, where is it, who has access to it as well. But embrace technology.
Yeah, it's very easy to say that, like who has access to what, but their entire business is built around who has access to what and when and how.
And invest in the system. We're talking AI, Gen AI. Allow it, to start. We're not writing it to a public, AI, but this is why some of these things that sitting in, allow your vector databases, your data to start being written to some of your systems, but giving you the insights. And Brian, I'm gonna say the dirty word again. When I was a firewall administrator early on in my career, when I would install a perimeter-based firewall, I'd put in a monitor mode for 60 days. What is a baseline of connectivity? What's normal usage? That's the sort of thing, what's normal usage of who's using data, who's going, and then I can build a baseline of access for this role. I can build access for this person. Now I can create alerts or these dynamic policies of why is this person who works in development reaching out to an HR database? This doesn't make sense.
Why
And
is
you can
Brian
alert
always on
that.
BitTorrent, transferring gigs of data?
Whoa. Never mind.
Hey, that's a side hustle. Don't encroach on a side hustle.
He's on PokerStars.net 15 hours a day. All right, well, you continue to get great comments about our Dad Joke of the Week.
Dad joke of the week.
This week, our guest Ben is up again.
All right, so as we chatted at the beginning of this, you know that I just came back from a week in Las Vegas. Let's just say it was a long week. When I got home, I asked my son how my wallet is like an onion. He's like, how, Dad? Now, every time I open it, I cry.
Wah, wah, wah.
Did you use a knife to cut it open? Never mind.
Stop! No. It was empty, so I didn't have to open it at all. I knew what was there.
You went home broke. All right, good job. Did you gamble at all while you're there?
All of my trips to Vegas, I've been to Vegas probably 24 times, a lot of Black Hat, DEF CON, and all of these conferences. I've never spent a penny on gambling. Not in a slot, not a blackjack table. No, I've spent plenty of money on food, but I've never gambled.
That's a theme I've heard for Las Vegas. Like when CES comes in or one of these tech trade shows, the casinos, they do not like them because the particular attendees to these conferences usually do not gamble because they understand odds. They understand the odds are stacked against them. They're more rational than emotional, I would say. And then so the opposite is true when we have sales kickoff in Las Vegas. I bet they love the people that come in because those particular types may spend more money in the casino than say the tech folks.
Dude, one of our, I'm not going to say who it was. I don't think I want to give away his name. He was down like a couple $100. Yeah. Anyways, I think he was down to his last $25, and then he was doing blackjack, and he was just like, all right, just all in, doubled it. He got to eight grand, and he cashed out.
It's good.
Crazy
getting him to know
story.
when to quit. Yeah. Emotionally, I just can't take those highs and lows, the lowest of the lows and the high highs, and that's why I just choose not to partake.
Sure, Chris.
Sports betting's different, though. Sports betting, at least, is somewhat skill-based. Although, arguably, blackjack is, too. If you play it right. Anyways, another sketch for another day. All right, to wrap things up, a DIA insider threat hunter tried himself to leak classified data. Australia will require reporting on ransomware payments. A Coinbase support contractor took pictures of the screen to steal data. And always be prepared for a cyber incident. That's all I have for this week. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. You can find us on LinkedIn. Links will be in the description. Follow us on Instagram at PEBCAK Podcast. Thank you to all our listeners and subscribers. Rate us 5 stars on iTunes Store and Spotify and left us a review. We appreciate you all spreading the word to help grow the show. The best way to find us is to search for the PEBCAK Podcast in your favorite podcast listening app. For my co-host Brian Deach and our guest Ben Coral, I'm Chris Louie. Thanks for listening. We'll see you all next week, and as always, have a nice day.
Bye, Glenn. We love you.
Have a nice day.